Hey, all you Minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, your home for collected editions. And today, I'm going to be doing an overview of the latest Superman Death and Return of Superman Omnibus from DC Comics. This is the latest printing we have from 2022, and I'll compare it to the 2019 printing. So, join me. Alright, I swore up and down I would not get the latest printing of this book in 2019, and then I ended up doing it. It's a curse. I don't know how many times I've bought this. I guess if you're keeping track, if you've been watching my channel for a few years now, you know I made a video about how I'm not going to double dip, I'm not going to upgrade, and then I ended up doing it. So, here we are. But hey, at least I'll be giving away the previous version and when we celebrate our, I guess, when we get the next milestone, maybe 70 or 75,000. Here's what the spine looks like on the new printing, and then the back of the book right here. The epic event that shocked a nation and changed Superman forever. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit. This one retails for $150. And actually, let's do the comparison to the 2019 version. Now, if you want to see the other printings of this book, I think I did a retro view on it, or maybe it was where I was sitting there and talking about why I'm not upgrading, like the fool that I am. But here's what they look like. Honestly, they're identical. They have this non-glossy dust jacket, with the exception of the logo and that iconic cape right there, and the rocks down here. But everything else is just flat. Doesn't have a gloss to it. The spines, identical. There's no difference at all. Even the font that they're using, I've always loved that logo. And speaking of logo, the DC logo is still the same. They haven't changed it. Every couple of years they seem to have changed it. Maybe after this whole Dark Crisis event they'll change it. Over here is the back of the book, and it looks identical. Like I said, even the font, the spacing, ISBN is a little bit different, of course, because this is a new printing, but still $150. This one is printed and bound in Canada. So let's take a look under the dust jacket to get this image here, like you do in the original. So it's the same image. Colors look identical, honestly, but it is this image of Superman and Doomsday just knocking the crap out of each other in Metropolis. And let's go ahead and get this book open, look at the artwork in here, talk a little bit about the story, and of course take a look at the binding, and then do some comparison of the internal pages to the previous printing. Okay, let's get this opened. I love the end paper they use here. The articles talking about the Man of Steel dying. Okay, so obviously I am going to be talking about some spoilers in here. The book is called Superman, The Death and Return of Superman Omnibus. So, I mean, there's very little I can do to avoid the things that happen in here, especially when they're in the title. On the left-hand side are the credits. Everyone that worked on the book, from the writers, the pencilers, inkers, colorists, letterers, and even the collection cover artist. The table of contents right here. I feel like I just did an overview of this. Maybe it's been about a year. The important thing here, though, is the year 2022. That's when the latest printing of this book right there. So, in case you're wondering if you buy a used copy, what printing it is, that's where it's located. Previous printing was from 2019. And then where it all begins here with Something is Coming. Unrelentingly, unstoppably, Doomsday is coming. And then, of course, Doomsday is here. So, kicking this off with Superman, the Man of Steel, number 18. So, let's talk about the contents of the book, and then we'll look at the story, and then how it... Actually, let's talk about how it came to be first, before we look at the actual story. So, this does include Man of Steel 17 through 26, Action Comics 683 to 692, annual number 5, Adventures of Superman 496 to 505, and annual number 5, Green Lantern 46, Justice League 69 and 70, and Man of Steel annual number 2, Superman 73 to 83 in annual number 5, Supergirl and Team Luthor special number 1, News Time, The Life and Death of Superman, and Superman Legacy of Superman one shot. And then, of course, is the previous pages here that were just material from, which is the last pages of the previous issues. So during this time, there were 4 titles of Superman going out monthly. There was Superman, Action Comics, Adventures of Superman, and Man of Steel. And each one of them had their own creative team. Holla at my boy there, Optimus Prime. Each one of them had a creative team behind them. So every year since John Byrne left, Mike Carlin, who became the editor of Superman Comics, decided to have something called Summer Summit. Now, that's not unusual. Every publisher does that. Every editorial group does that. I think lately they've been having Zoom meetings instead of actually going somewhere. Marvel does that with the X-Men comics. They get all the writers and everybody to talk about what's the upcoming event so they can all be on the same page. Well, the Summer Summit was going to be actually about the next story arc of Superman, which was supposed to be the wedding of Lois Lane and Clark Kent. However, there was a new show on television. It was getting some huge ratings, The Adventures of Lois and Clark, and they had to postpone it because they were going to get married in a future season. So they decided to just sit around and come up with a storyline. Now, rumor has it, and then of course actually interviews with Jerry Ordway, who's one of the creators on the book, one of the writers and artists, decided that, hey, why don't we kill Superman in a joking manner? And then Louise Simonson, Wheezy, who had written for Marvel Comics, knew how much a character's death meant to people that were reading the stories. She had written a couple of them in the issues of New Mutants and, of course, X Factor. But Mike Carlin stepped up and said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Now, the main writers here, of course, at the time were Jerry Ordway, Louise Simonson, Dan Jurgens, and Uncle Roger Stearns, who had taken over writing Action Comics after John Byrne decided to leave the book. So that's what they decided to do. They decided to kill Superman, and holy crap, did it ever work to get people to come and read Superman. I remember at the comic book store, I wasn't getting Superman monthly or 4 times a month as they were coming out. I was more like a Marvel guy. I was an X-Men reader, and I had a little bit of summer money, so I'd space out exactly how much I could afford, and I knew the big X-Men events were coming. I was getting more into Spider-Man, more into the Punisher, so Superman really wasn't on my radar. Probably Batman, but the rumors of the death of Superman because of the Comics Buyer's Guide, because of just pretty much the comic book stores. See, that's the thing that people forget or maybe don't even know about. There was this age before the internet. There was this age before YouTube channels explained comics for you. And we had to rely on our most credible sources, which were the old guys at the comic book store. I don't know if they still make them like that, but I miss that era. I miss going into a comic book shop on a Tuesday or a Thursday after school, and then just kind of rounding up with the old guys there. And of course I'm saying old, but they were probably my age, in their 40s. And, talking about the upcoming events, how stupid it is, they're going to kill Superman. I remember that. They were so angry. It's just a ploy to get people to buy comics. Yeah, no crap, dude. Of course it is. That's what comics have always been. But it was funny to go back then and listen to those guys. That was probably 1991. Yeah, 1991. Because this came out in the late 91, early 92 is when these issues came out. But they were talking about this, and I mean, it was everywhere. The newspapers, the TV, everybody was reporting on the death of Superman. And of course, if you read comics long enough, you realize, okay, obviously they're going to kill him, they're going to bring him back. Nobody stays dead in comics. But if you're new to reading comics, you don't know that. I remember the same way they hyped up the death of Robin. They never mentioned that it was going to be Jason Todd. Everybody assumed the death of Robin was going to be the original Dick Grayson. In the same way that, they knew they were going to bring back the character of Superman, but they only advertised it as the death of Superman. That's smart marketing. You're going to kill off a main character. Now, I think they did reach out to Siegel, one of the creators of Superman, about the idea of killing him off, and he gave them their blessing. He was like, "Ah, sounds great. Have fun." Now, let's talk about the actual story. So, we do have this creature, this thing known as Doomsday. It's an unstoppable force. He kicks the crap out of the Justice League. And I do remember, I think, Dan Jurgens talking about how they wanted to kill off a couple of characters, but editorial would not let them. Here's some wonderful Tom Grumet artwork. And one of the things I always love to point out is as the battle gets bigger and bigger, the closer he comes to Metropolis, the panels get bigger and bigger. So you start off with something like a 5 panel grid on a page, and then you move on to 4 panels, and then eventually 3 panels. Here, let me get to the next pages. This is the 3 panel pages. Then the next issue is 2 panels. By the time you get to the big fight, the big showdown in issue 75, the iconic issue 75 of Superman, is where they decided to kill him, you get just pure splash pages. So you go from 2 panels to pure splash pages. I love that. That is so badass that they, as a kid, I never realized that. I mean, it was only in my rereads of my rereads. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but that's what it is. Rereads. Yes, I'm pronouncing it right. But anyway, when I had the trade paperbacks, the old crappy trade paperbacks, I noticed that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a movie. This is awesome. The creators absolutely knew what they were doing. And this is written by Dan Jurgens. It is drawn by Dan Jurgens. Brett Breeding supplying the inks here. And it has some iconic moments. I mean, Superman gives his life to save Metropolis from this creature known as Doomsday that has just been slaughtering everything. I mean, from the beginning, when Doomsday breaks loose, the dude kills a freaking bird. So you know immediately that what you're dealing with. Look at that. He kills a little canary. And he laughs about it. So yeah, if you can't stand or stomach the thought of an animal being hurt, this book is not for you, because the canary is not the only thing that Doomsday kills on his way to Metropolis. So I love this fight. I thought this fight was awesome. I remember taking the 4th printing, because this book was reprinted, I think 4 times, maybe 5, I'm not sure. It's the only one I would take to school because people had heard about it, and I was the comic book guy, and I let everybody in my home ec class read it, because it is a quick read. And people that didn't even read comics were like, man, that is sad when you get to this page. And yes, the previous 2019 printing has this fold-out page right there. Oh, I love it. And it was the reason that I upgraded to this Omnibus from the previous printing. This right there, I was stupid. I was like, yeah, that's worth it. Yeah, because in previous printings, of course, they just put this as the next 2 pages. So in here, you're going to see all of this is the death of Superman. The next arc is the funeral for a friend. So this is pretty much a world without Superman. Like, Superman doesn't exist, so what are they going to do? Now, in the first printing, I've mentioned this several times, if you have the first printing, it's not a true omnibus. DC was still experimenting with what an omnibus was. So it's like a very standard size, big, thick hardcover. But it's standard size. It's not oversized like this. And it used, like, newspaper paper. Not even, like, matte paper. It was some bad paper in there. But the important thing about that printing is that it completely wiped out the character of Matrix, Supergirl. That was a big character during this time. So her issues are missing in there. Some of the panels are missing in there, just completely wiping her out. Because at that time, Dan Didio and DC Comics wanted to focus on the Jeff Loeb Supergirl with Michael Turner. The one that they had just created. She was getting her own comic, her own ongoing series. And they thought, readers are not going to understand who this Matrix character is. She's a lot different than our Supergirl. Let's just get rid of her. And this is, of course, the character that Peter David ended up writing in his run, which is a phenomenal character. But rest assured, everything is intact here, including her appearances. And we get, a world without Superman. Now, later on, we do have some new Superman stepping in. We have, as a matter of fact, 4 of them. Such a good story here. So let's get there. So in the Adventures of Superman 500, there's a big cliffhanger with Superman's body. But then we're introduced to the notion that there's going to be 4 people stepping up and taking over Superman. Of course, you have Steel there. You have the Eradicator, who had previously appeared in pages of Superman. And then you have, don't call him Superboy. And then Hank, right there, the cyborg Superman. Now, they all took over the titles, so Man of Steel, of course, had Steel. This is Action Comics right here, so this has the Eradicator story in it. This one's written by Roger Stern, and it's drawn by Jackson Guice. Next, we have Louise Simonson's book. This is Man of Steel, and this has Steel in it, which it makes sense. Then we have Superman right here, which features the cyborg Superman in his monthly adventures. And speaking of adventures, there we have the Adventures of Superman featuring Superboy. Now, yes, Doomsday didn't die like Superman did in the Battle for Metropolis. Actually, don't confuse. There is an actual event called Battle for Metropolis. So let's just call it the big fight. But all the stories are in here, including the crossovers. And then, of course, the Omnibus is called The Death and Return. So eventually, I'm not going to go into details. Clark Kent, Superman, Kal-El does get to come back. And he comes back in an interesting story where it features a fight with Mongol here. And poor Mongol gets no respect. I think everybody considers him a ripoff of a ripoff. And poor Mongol gets no respect. I think people considered him a ripoff of a ripoff because you had Darkseid, and then you had Thanos, and then you had Mongol, and Mongol's a ripoff of Thanos, who people claim is a ripoff of Darkseid. But you know what? Doesn't matter. He shows up in here. But what's interesting is that this is a crossover with Green Lantern. There are things that happen through this particular story arc, the final story arc that's collected in here, that affect Green Lantern in a huge way, because something happens in this particular issue that makes Hal Jordan snap. And that's where you get the whole Emerald Twilight story arc. Why he goes crazy, and, well, yeah, this issue right here. And you can find out exactly what happens to him in the Emerald Twilight story arc. That one's written by Ron Mars, not this issue. And then, yes, eventually Superman comes back with a super mullet. So a few of the Aftermath issues are collected in here. This is a big freaking book. This is 1,408 pages. And as far as the extras in the back, you have the introductions here that were originally printed in the trade paperback editions. You have some pinups back here. I love these pinups. I'm so glad they're included in here. The many different incarnations of the trade paperbacks. As a matter of fact, I think they just did a new printing of the trade paperbacks. I love that. Was the poster that came inside of the poly bag, the black poly bag. And here's some character designs. This is what you see in the underneath the dust jacket. So the art on board here. This is the unpublished art featuring this big fight by John Bogdanove. Some more character designs. Carl Kessel, John Bogdanove notes, Roger Stern. And then, of course, what you saw is the end paper articles. This is the trade paperback. I'm sorry, this is the Omnibus, the 2012 printing of the Omnibus. And then bios on the creators. Love that. That was in underneath the polybag as well. Now, as far as the binding of the book, it is sewn binding, and it's 1,408 pages. This is what the eye looks like. So the book lays down rather well. For a book this size, I guess comparing it to like something like Scott Snyder's Omnibus of Batman Volume 1, that just kept, it was almost like the old school ways of these books being bound, like 52 or Hawkman, where the book just wanted to keep shutting on you. But eventually that glue cracked on my copy. Ever since, let me see, I think by the time Melanie, the Astonishing Melanie, read it, it was okay. But this book lays over really nice. I don't have it. You can see we're almost here towards the end pages, and it's still, well, okay. I lied. The bios try to close on you, and that's mainly due to the paper that they're using here, this thick matte paper. But the paper in the book is identical to the paper of the 2019 printing. It's this glossy paper. So speaking of 2019, So we have the 2019 version right there, and then we have the new printing. So I'll just call it the original printing and the new printing. Even the way the book lays, the new printing, it lays better than this one. I think this one, like I said, came around the time that Scott Snyder's first Omnibus was coming out. So they were still trying to figure out exactly what kind of glue, how much glue to use. Right now, I'm mainly focusing on the colors, and the colors honestly look identical, maybe just a little tad bit more vibrant in the new printing, which is a good thing. As far as the paper quality, these are both printed at the exact same printer. So the paper quality is, I mean, I really need one of those machines, but they feel the same. Yeah, they feel the same. But I mainly wanted to show how the book lays over compared to the original printing up there. So let's pick some pages towards the middle here. And then we'll pick some pages towards the back here. And I've always loved this right here. Metropolis over my dead body. Ah, so badass. Yes, even with that mullet. Hey, it was the 90s, okay? But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsors. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. If you live in Europe and are interested in pre-ordering or purchasing Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books within the EU. Flat shipping of €9.90 for EU countries, extremely careful and sturdy packaging, emails are answered within 24 hours, and they have a superb selection of new releases and out-of-print books on their website. Just head over to waltzcomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles. And for a limited time, you can use the code NEARMINTCONDITION, all one word, at the checkout for free shipping to all EU countries with your first order. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if you already have the previous printing, if you have the trade paperbacks. Actually, I'd love to know if you've never read this iconic story. Leave those comments down below. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments section. And don't forget to check out our Patreon and Spreadshop. Phenomenal ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.